What's up YouTube, this is Tubedigga. In this video I'm going to show you how to use the slice and hot slice modes of the Pioneer DJ DJS-1000 sampler. So what are the slice and hot slice modes? In slice mode, the DJS-1000 will slice any sample that you put into any of your sample slots or your tracks, and it will automatically slice it into 16 regions. In slice mode, it will just play that slice back and the sample will stop. But in hot slice mode, you can press that same slice back, but it will continue to play the rest of the sample. I'll demonstrate this by loading a sample into the DJS-1000. So I'm going to click on here on our first pad. This is our first pad and our first track. I'm going to go to Browse and I'm going to load in this breakbeat sample called Boogie Back. So because we're in hot slice mode, it now shows us that we've now populated all those pads with a different slice. And as said, in hot slice mode, it will play back the slice from the slice point and continue it to the end of the sample. So that's really good for live jamming and chopping up your loops. In slice mode, of course, it's good for doing the same thing, but the slices will just cut off. So this would be really handy if you just wanted to trigger one hit back from that particular sample or any other sample and have the slice or the sample stop. But I think hot slice mode would probably be best used if you want to live jam your breaks. So on and so forth. So let's take a look at the slices. So if we press on the tab for our particular sample and then go to the playback menu, which is in here, now we can see how our sample's been split up into those equal 16 regions. If we go to set slice, this is where we can actually adjust those slices. Now I can see from my waveform display here that the snare on pad 3, or our third slice, is a little bit off. Now we can zoom in with the data wheel, so we can get right up close to that sample, and then using this third knob here we can adjust the start point. So now we've got that snare dead on. So what I'm going to do is reconstruct this break into a slightly different arrangement on the sequencer. So I'm going to choose my first pad, put that on step 1. We've got our second kick, which is on our second pad, put that on step 3. Choose our third pad, which is the snare, and I'm going to get this little paradiddle shaky roll section here, and I'm going to put that on step 7, step 9 and step 15. I'm going to get this kick drum on pad 10, put that on step 11, and this other snare here that's on pad 11, I'm going to put that on step 13. So now that's on the grid and will be playing back perfectly at our tempo. It's a little bit off because we do need to adjust the pitch a little bit of this sample. So let's go back out. Now we can do this in one or two ways. We can increase the pitch, which will in turn speed the sample up and all the slices. So that sounds a little bit better. So because I've reconstructed it in the sequencer, we now don't really have to time stretch it. We can just adjust the pitch to match the tempo a bit better. But we can also return that back to 0 semitones, so it's at its base pitch, and we can also use the time stretch. So the time stretch has got two different algorithms. It's got resample, which will actually adjust the pitch up to the most logical or down to the most logical speed to match the tempo. So in resample you'll hear that it's going to pitch that up probably about 4 semitones. Okay, so if I switch it off, it goes back, and then if I increase the pitch, yeah, it's 4 semitones pretty much. So that's what resample does. time stretch mode. We've also got another algorithm called m.tmp. I've not actually looked in the manual as to what that stands for, but this allows us to now affect the pitch. So it's time stretched it, so it will work with the current BPM, but the pitch will be the original pitch. Okay, now we can adjust the pitch down or up. Let's take that off. Okay, so m.tmp is doing nothing particularly different than having it set to off. It's just that it will stretch it and the actual sort of feel of that rhythm will be retained, and then you can adjust the pitch. Whereas if it's set to off and then you pitch it up to what resample would essentially do, you can actually increase it or decrease it a bit more and then adjust the pitch of that. This brings me on to the next thing that's really interesting about slices. Let's go into the playback menu again. So I've put in those slices and slightly reconstructed this break into a slightly different arrangement. If I press set slice again, where we can adjust our slice start and end points, I'm going to choose my last slice, and then delete slice becomes active, which it would if I pressed any other pad other than the first pad. We can't delete that slice, but we can delete any of these other slices. I'm going to choose the last one and then delete them all. But look what happens when I press playback. The sequencer actually remembers the slice points. So this is really flexible. It's playing back exactly the same as when I had those slices in, but this means now I can choose any other section of this breakbeat and turn that into a slice and then put that into the sequence. So let's do that. Let's add slice. It's now on our second pad, and let's adjust the start point. Let's get that kick and crash. Okay, and I'm going to swap out the kick that's on step 11 with that new slice. So I'm not too sure why Pioneer DJ have implemented it that way, but I think it's really flexible. Now, of course, we've deleted all our slices. Now, if I wanted to put in a different snare or do some other things in a different bar or a different pattern completely, I haven't got those slices anymore. But it's really easy to recover those. You just go to set slice again, grid slice, and then it says grid slice, current sample 2. It says previous slices will be lost, and then you can just add as many slices as you want. So we can go back to the original 16. Again, it won't change anything on the sequencer. Just gives us the slices back. Okay, so that's really handy. Also in grid slice, we're not just limited to 16 slices to correspond with the 16 pads. You can actually add 64 slices. Okay, so now that's split our break into 64 slices. So these slices will be really short now. So how do we access those 64 slices? Well, we haven't got banks like we have in the Akai MPC, but we've got this fifth knob here, and just above there it says area. So we literally just shift, and we can just shift along in increments of 1, and we're shifting that actual bracket that contains 16 slices within the entire range of 64. Okay, and you can see the pads correspond now. We've gone right off the scale there, and we've only got access to the very last slice now. But if it was a longer sample and I chopped that into 64, and those individual sections would be longer, and then we're just adjusting the area that the pads are focusing on, so we can access all those additional samples. Of course, we can loop this sample, so looping it with this fifth knob in the main page is obviously looping all the slices. So now all our slices will loop. And you can do some really nice glitchy stuff with that. Create drones. build-ups and things like that. Now it's set to one-shot mode, so that will infinitely sustain, which is also another really brilliant thing about this machine. This will just continuously repeat for as long as I let it until I press stop on the sequencer. So let's put that into gate mode. Now obviously it's not going to play back now unless I hold my finger on the pad. But let's go into the envelope in the track settings there. Now the hold is set to infinite, but the release is set to 0. If we now increase the release to infinite, that will now play back infinitely. Likewise, if we bring that down, now just trail off nicely. We can increase the attack time. Great. Just that one tiny little feature is a game changer for me for this machine, because it tells me that I can load in some really nice ambient loops on all of my pads and just trigger them off and have them looping away in the background and adjust the volumes and fade them in and out. Okay, switch between the pads. So it's really good, really flexible. Anyway, I hope that has shown you guys what you can do with the slice mode and the hot slice mode of the Pioneer DJ DJS-1000. Any comments or questions, please put them down below. Please like, share and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. This is Tubedigga and I'm out.